It isn't any secret that I love board games and card games, tabletop games really in general, and you may have realized if you watch my main channel, Danny Ball Sub, that I also like game shows. I have a lot of fond memories watching the Game Show Network when I was younger, and I've always loved the idea of being on one or even possibly hosting one myself one day. Now, of course, I have kind of sort of done that with my Bad Games series on the Danny Ball Sub channel, but before that, I had many ideas for game shows that I wanted to see, but didn't seem to exist. Now, of course, I can't be certain that none of these exist, so if anything I share here in this video does, please let me know in the comments below where I can watch it, because I would greatly appreciate that. I'd love to actually watch it. Now, let's start the list with one of the game show ideas that I think is probably the oldest that I've ever come up with. I have a little bit of some concern with it. One of my concerns about it is that it could come off as insensitive or something to that extent. But let's go ahead and talk about it and share it here and find out what everyone here and watching this video thinks. So this game show would work similar to Alone or Man vs. Wild, or one of those shows where it's like sort of a survivor type deal where they're surviving in different environments and stuff like that. You would have a single person or maybe a group of people like in Alone trying to survive in the wild. The twist is that they actually aren't in the wild, they're on the streets. They would have to survive in an urban environment without any direct help from the production team whatsoever. Essentially, the contestants would have to see how long they could survive or last being homeless. Now, if you had multiple people, it could be like Alone, like I said earlier, where they are each isolated, maybe in different cities or maybe different parts of the city or something like that, and at any time they can just quit, and the last person to quit wins the money. Personally, I think it would work better if it was a single person and their goal would be to last, let's say, like a week or something like that. After a week, they can earn additional money or prizes or whatever by lasting even longer. Now, like I said at the beginning as well, I could see this show being a bit controversial because it could seem like the show is making fun of homelessness or something to that extent, right? I think at the same time, however, it could be used to sort of help the homelessness situation a little bit by not only sharing real facts about homelessness, but also donating some of the money that the show makes towards charities that actually do good work for the homeless. It could also shine a light on the homelessness issue and maybe drive more attention towards it and hopefully generate some revenue from the audience as well, like encourage them to donate to charities and things like that. And it's a very scary thing that can happen to just about anyone, just suddenly becoming homeless. All it really takes is one bad decision or a random disaster like a house fire, and then you're just homeless. This game show would hopefully, like I said, shine a light on the homelessness crisis while also educating people about it and even generating money for charity. Like I said, also, they could have a lot of different reminders and things like that, like, hey, look, this is an actual issue. If you want to help the homelessness situation, here's where you can donate, and you can help fund a charity through that. Now, if this game show doesn't suit your fancy, how about something more lighthearted and energetic? Jump for Glory. Also, I didn't have a name for the homelessness one, by the way. I don't know what it could be called. I always thought it could be like called something like Surviving the Urban Jungle or something like that, or like Urban Jungle Survival, because that's what people call like cities and stuff, is the urban jungle. Anyway, Jump for Glory is a separate game show idea where players would have to venture through an obstacle course while answering trivia questions. The more questions you get right, the more of the obstacle course you're able to jump to. I did this game show in Minecraft once, and it was pretty fun. To be a little more clear on the premise, essentially you would have a few players at once. All of them would stand on a starting pillar, some kind of starting platform or whatever, and the host would ask a question. The players would have to race to buzz in, provide the correct answer, and then if they do get the correct answer, they earn the right to jump to the next pillar. If they miss the jump, they'll just have to get back to the first pillar before they can answer another question. This would be a fast-paced game where questions are almost always being asked, so you have to be ready to answer. And if you're not on a pillar, well, you can't answer the question. So players who miss jumps will want to be fast at getting back up. At the halfway point, you could have a checkpoint that players can return to if they fall after reaching, and the prize can go to whoever reaches the last pillar first. Maybe if they reach that halfway point, they can get some sort of consolation prize as well or something. Some more obstacles can include jumping to a ladder and having to climb up it, or maybe like a rope or something like that. Maybe something akin to rock climbing, or even moving platforming things which would essentially force players to constantly adjust themselves while trying to answer questions, which I think could be a lot of fun. In general, I think this one would be a lot of fun to watch, and it would be similar to shows like Wipeout or The Floor is Lava, I believe is the name of the one where they have to like jump up and parkour and stuff like that. I think it would be really, really interesting. Lastly, I mentioned the bad games earlier, but when it comes down to it, the game show that game show that I do in Ponytown on the Daniel Ball sub channel would essentially work in real life just as well as it does in Ponytown. It would be kind of like Minute to Win It or something like that, but I think with the range of mini games and challenges that the bad games already has, it would be able to stand out as different and unique, especially since some of those challenges technically involve interacting with strangers and stuff like that. Now, for starters, there's almost 100 different challenges in the bad games. I think it's about 80 something. I'd have to look at my document and see in like my list of games on there. I think it's about 80 or something. And to be fair, not all of them will exactly translate perfectly to real life, and some of them aren't exactly the best anyway, but it's still a lot to consider here. Now, if I were to do this, if I were to turn this into a real game show with real life people and everything like that, I think there are about 2 different ways I could see this going. The first is having it work essentially like it currently does with 3 players and up to 5 random challenges determined by a wheel. First player to get 3 wins wins the whole thing, and after the 3rd challenge, if a player has no wins, they get removed from the final challenge. It's simple, and you can even have each player spin the wheel physically at least once. The other way to do it is to have random audience members possibly get called down to compete, grab 3 at a time, and they do 1 challenge. Then the winner of that challenge gets a prize and a chance to do some kind of grand final challenge thing against other winners. Then you get 3 new people and do it again. The winner of that gets a prize and waits for that grand challenge. Then you get 3 final people, and then the winner of that gets a prize and sits with the other 2 winners. Now that you have 3 winners, you have them each go against each other in 1 final challenge for an even bigger prize than what they got earlier. The fun part of this game show would be in how the challenges essentially never repeat, so you never know what you could possibly have to do. Especially if there is like a big physical wheel there, all the challenges would have some wacky name, and it'd be like, what the hell does that mean, right? Like Maid Simulator in bad games on the in Ponytown that I do on the main channel. It's you have to delete a bunch of stuff and clean a bunch of stuff. But like if you saw Maid Simulator on a wheel, you'd be like, what the hell does that mean? What is that? What is that game? It would be hilarious, and I think it could be fun that way, because you never know what you're gonna have to do. It could be the challenges range from simple stuff like having to run to a colored spot on the floor before anyone else does. Or like the maid challenge thing where you have to clean up a bunch of stuff before everyone else can clean up their stuff. It could be a little bit more complicated, like having to solve a miniature maze, or maybe a little bit of some trivia or something to that extent. You could also, I know I said the challenges wouldn't repeat, but you could, in theory, bring back fan favorite challenges after so many episodes. But I do really enjoy the idea that it would be different every time, because I think it would make this show very fresh and unique. The issue I could see with that is like maybe it could be expensive, because you'd have to every episode set up like all of the different challenges. I mean, you can have them be predetermined, I guess, in this example or something like that, where they're all like, you know, which games, like the host and the production team knows which challenges are going to appear, so they have those set up and ready to go already. And that could maybe help cheapen it out a little bit more. But because I feel like if you had like 15 different mini games on there, you would have to have room and space set up for each individual game in case you happen to do it. But either way, I think it'd be really fun and unique and stuff like that. And it would be almost like a mix of like Minute to Win It, like I said earlier, maybe Taskmaster, and maybe some Let's Make a Deal vibes or something in there too, since I believe they get audience members to play in that. But these are just a few different game shows that I've thought of over the years. I'm sure there's many more that I can't think of at the moment. But what do you think of these ideas? Would you watch any of these game shows? Which one is your favorite? And if you're curious about the bad games specifically, check out this series on my main channel, Danny Ball Sub. But with that said, that's all I got for you. Check out more videos here on my Meme Closet channel. I do a lot of fun, wacky, random things here, which range from real life skits to just wacky stuff like this. I do some board game stuff on here too sometimes, all kinds of other random nonsense. We have a lot of fun here on the Meme Closet channel, and I hope you did too. So if you did, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, or doing any of those wonderful things like that, because when you do wonderful things like that, well, I'm about to repeat my outro that I do for the Daniel Ball Sub channel, so I'm going to stop now. Goodbye.